Back. After a racially charged incident with D.C. police, troubled and angry 16-year-old Malcolm is sent by his mom to spend the summer at the family farm in Mississippi. Then, through the help of a ghostly ancestor, he travels back in time on a journey to Reconstruction-era America to find his place in the modern-day struggle for Black progress. Black Was the Ink is the debut novel from Michelle Coles. She's an experienced civil rights attorney in the Department of Justice and mother of 4. Thank you for joining us. Hi, Michelle. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Tell us more about the inspiration for writing the book, the title, and its main character, Malcolm.
So the inspiration was I was on maternity leave with the second of my 4 boys in the summer of 2015 when the Mother Emanuel massacre happened. And like most Americans, I was shaken to my core by the terrible tragedy that we watched unfold us in front of us, and how senseless it was that it was based on a young man, a teenager's belief in white supremacy that had been fed to him. And so I was at that point really concerned. There's always been a lot of concerns, but I think at that moment in history in 2015, a lot of people thought that maybe we had entered a post-racial America and that we were putting some of those skeletons that had always haunted us to rest for good. And with that incident, it just reminded me that those skeletons and bones are very much still with us. And so I wanted to write something to help my infant son that I just had be able to contextualize and understand the world that he was being born into when he was ready. It's a young adult, so it's aged for 13 and older. But when he was ready to understand a more complete American history, I wanted him to have that available. And I also wanted to write something that communities that are different from mine and may not have been exposed to the experiences and the perspectives of my family members, a way that they can understand history and empathize with people that were different from them, and hopefully serve as a counter narrative to the white supremacy that they may be taught in certain places.
So let's talk about this young man, Malcolm. He's the main character in the book. He travels to Reconstruction-era America. Why did you zero in on that period of history?
Reconstruction-era America was the first time that America, I can't say the first time, but it was a critical time where America stood at a crossroads. I would say the first time was, probably when the Constitution was signed and America was founded. I think that was the first time we stood at a crossroads to try to figure out who we were going to be and how we were going to live up to the values that we were infusing in all of our founding documents. But Reconstruction provided a second opportunity to reevaluate and reconsider what to do with the 4 million, and there were 4 million at that time, African Americans that were emancipated and freed from slavery at the end of the Civil War. And there were a lot of people, Black, white, and everything, that felt very strongly that African Americans should be fully integrated and treated as citizens, made citizens. The 14th Amendment was passed to, make sure that everyone who was born in America had the full rights of citizenship and due process rights, and really like all the things that make America unique and wonderful and great in the world, that should apply to all Americans. Mm-hmm. And people shouldn't be treated differently because of their color or their previous condition of servitude. And so there were a lot of people that lived in that Reconstruction era that were working really hard to make that a reality.
And in fact, Malcolm meets some of these people in his time travel back to Reconstruction, and you introduce us, or introduce the reader, to Hiram Revels and some of the other historic characters, African American, that lived during Reconstruction.
Absolutely. And not just African American, because I was just about to say one of my favorite people in the book that I think needs to be elevated in all of our collective memories is Charles Sumner, who was the senator from Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. And he was just such a stalwart believer in equal rights for all Americans. And so he was the author, along with a later African American congressman named John Mercer Langston. Together, they authored a bill called the Civil Rights Act that passed in 1875. And less than 10 years later, that bill was struck down by the Supreme Court as being unconstitutional, but it still served as a template for the 1964 Civil Rights Act that was eventually passed nearly 100 years later. So there's so much that happened in this period that set the stage for later events, but has been completely forgotten, that I felt like all of us, our kids, everyone, that cares about civil rights and equal rights would benefit from knowing about this history.
The book is getting great reviews. One of the reviews says the book looks at how the past informs the future, and you do a great job storytelling and weaving in the facts of history. But I want to ask you, as a civil rights attorney, do you see any parallels between Reconstruction and where we are today in America?
I see so many parallels, and I saw them daily as I was researching the book and writing the book, where my jaw would just drop. Thank you for showing that. I've been doing what I call a fake book tour, where I've been taking pictures of my book, Black Was the Ink, at different places of historical significance that are, that are still, they're places that people could walk by every day. All of these places are in DC, but they have ties to the Reconstruction era. And so, so Howard University, I could talk about any of them, but Howard University, it was founded in 1867 in the Reconstruction period, as well as so many other historically Black colleges and universities, because that was the first time that African Americans were able to get an education. During slavery, enslaved people could be killed or maimed for even attempting to learn how to read and write. And so one of the things that came with the Reconstruction period is a pathway to being a full citizen and being able to enjoy all the privileges of citizenship is an education.
Michelle,
and so let's create all of these schools.
There is so much to learn here, and I hope young adults everywhere pick up the book and read about Malcolm, his time travel. The book is called Black Was the Ink. Thank you so much for being here today. And thanks to all of you for watching. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at CityLine5, and follow me on Twitter at Karen Holmes Ward. Have a great afternoon, everybody.